Welcome to another segment of provocative conversations destined to provoke further thought and spark greater questions regarding God, church, and the religious establishments of both the past and the present. I am the proud heretic, Mr. Provocateur himself. Hello, I am the proud heretic, proud to be a person who goes against the traditions of man that nullifies the power of God. Well, we are still on the very subject of the divine season of the pandemic, the divine pandemic season. The prophetic utterances that God gave me, because I can put it no other way at this point in time in my life, that was given to me divinely, not something that was conjured up within me. And I am continuing on in the subtopic of what God stated to me to the United States specifically and its systems and institutions. The United States has always seemed to fare well outside of 9/11, perhaps Pearl Harbor. The United States has seemed to fare well in the midst of tragedy, in the midst of trauma, in the midst of catastrophe, whether it was physical catastrophe or catastrophe from natural disasters or catastrophe from war. The United States has always seemed to fare well. The United States has always had this elitist mindset regarding their own existence, and that we are somehow better than all other nations, and God loves us more than any other nation. And we make these claims, and then yet in the same breath we say that God loves Israel more than any other nation, and we just all twist it up, and we all just want to be God's favorites. We all just want to compete against each other and trump the other out as to who's more important in God's eyes, who's more of the apple of God's eyes, who's the more favored of them all, who's the most fairest of them all. But fortunately, unfortunately, however you want to see it, from whatever angle you want to see it at, the United States is not going to fare so well in this pandemic season, in this pandemic period of where we are going, of where God is taking this here. This is not just a situation that is occurring. This is a situation that was purposed to be. This is a situation that was ordained to be. A situation that us here within the United States will not just ride through, will not just travel through this time and space, this space in time, and not be unscathed. We will not be unscathed, United States. America, this is our day of reckoning. America, this is where we reap the harvest of all that has been sown. America, not only individuals, not only us all corporately, and not just humanity, but the systems of this United States, the systemic issues within this United States, you will all come crumbling down, or they will all come crumbling down as well. And God help those who are within these systems as they begin to crumble, those who receive their wealth from within these systems that are designed to systemically exclude many and only include few. Those who have prospered from these crooked and unjust systems within these divided states of America. I hate the word united. It's crazy. We've never been united. In fact, when we came here, we did not unite with those who were already here. We divided them and we conquered them. We destroyed them. And then we built by dividing a whole nother set of people from a whole nother country, Africa, and divided them from their homeland and from all that they had going on in their homeland, divided them from their loved ones, divided them from their culture, from their identity, stripped them of their character, stripped them of everything that they had, and then made them build through sweat, blood, and tears in the midst of a foreign country, a foreign land, made them build your riches, and then you oppress them in the midst of them working for you, building for you, making you wealthy, making your great grandkids wealthy. And you had no problem with that, America. Well, now, America, this is your season, America. This is the season for those seeds to produce that which they have been set to produce. Now, let me say this on that. Understand that we are coming to a point. No, we've come to a point. Well, I tell you what, I will speak on this when I speak on sowing and reaping, because this is that season, but I'm going to do a special topic on sowing and reaping. It'll be a teaching, but it'll be in reference to what's going on right now. So it's dealing with this pandemic period, because that's the type season we're in. But I'll deal with that at that point. So look for that as well. It would probably behoove you to not skip around when you listen to these recordings. However, it's your choice. Do it however you choose to do it. It's out there. It's there for you. It's yours for the listening. Okay, America, let's go. Understand that in America, the well-to-do and those in their positions of influence, where they strip others of all of their possible influence. Whenever you hear in America and around the world, but we're talking about America, whenever you see a group of people, an individual, a business booming, thriving, such as like what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where those several hundred blacks were killed who had wealth. They were killed, and all of that was pretty much swept under the rug or dismissed as nothing or as necessary. We had to level out the threat. Well, understand this, America. You have lived off of your influence, your worldwide influence, your domestic influence right here. The systems that be, the institutions that be, have had their influential control as well. However, in this season, in this pandemic season, God said that the influence of the people is going to be stripped. Your influence is where your power comes from, where your position comes from, where your longevity comes from, where your dominance comes from. God says he's stripping the influence. He says people's influence will be stripped from them. Those who had influence before and even in the midst of this pandemic will be stripped of such influence. God said that people will be stripped naked of their influence. He's going to strip groups, different groups that influence people. That influence could be such as how our president right now, he influences people to follow him. People who's been in the White House or in politics for 30, 40 years. He somehow sways them to go the route with him, even though he's not half as seasoned as they are. And his people claim that and those he influenced claim that he is not a politician. But there's nothing that distinguishes him from being a politician other than the fact that he doesn't know the Constitution. He doesn't know many of the things that most politicians tend to know, and that he did not serve in the military. That's important to a certain degree, because if you're going to be commander in chief of all, then you should be able to have, at least if you didn't go into the military because of some issue, health issue or whatever, you should have encouraged one of your kids to go, because after all, you love America and you're fighting for America. Don't wait until you're in your 70s and now start saying how much you love America. What happened in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s? And what happened to those years? Where were those years at in all of this here? But anyway, we'll continue on. I will strip the different groups of their influence. Certain groups, certain militant groups, certain groups that are, whether it's groups from what is labeled as the left and or the right, it does not matter. What God is doing in this season is stripping people. As things are evolving, and these influences have been known to hold people back from ever evolving. As things are evolving in this time of change, in this period of change that God is doing, the influence of such people is going to be transferred. God's going to strip that influence as though he's taking a coat off of one, and then he's going to take someone else and he's going to put that very coat in a righteous fashion, in a righteous state. Not necessarily the person, but the robe, the coat. And he's going to put that righteous coat of influence upon someone else. It's like he's crowning them. It's like duck, duck, goose. You're it. But it's not so random, but it's specific, and it was already predetermined who would have the influence in this season. During this season, those doing the oppressing will themselves be oppressed. America, you have always oppressed other nations, other countries. You have always done this here. But America, it is now time for you to be oppressed. America, it is now time for you to see the oppression that you put upon the backs of other people. Those who are in the position of leading, and instead of properly leading, you've oppressed the systems that have oppressed this very country that has oppressed. We will now be oppressed. The oppressors themselves will be oppressed. The industries, the systems that created the oppression will now be oppressed. Those controlling the money, those controlling the money flow, those making decisions regarding money. You controlled the money, but now the money that you once controlled will now control you. Your money will now be in control. Very interesting how this is going to play out. This current season is exposing your systems, America. Your systems are in the spotlight. Your systems are on center stage. Your systems that have failed at every level are being exposed by God. This pandemic is merely exposing all that is to be exposed. America, do not look to go without being exposed. Those of you individually, corporately, those of you in your different industries, don't look to escape your exposure. Don't look to escape the spotlight. Listen, this pandemic season, there's a divine stirring, and this pandemic season has divinely stirred up everything that was broken. America, you're broken. America, you've broken other countries, other nations. America, you've stripped other countries and other nations. America, you've stripped those from other countries and other nations. America, you've enslaved those of other countries and within your own country. America, your systems are broken. America, your way of dealing is broken. And this pandemic gave way for everything that was broken to come to the light. The broken systems of this nation, the broken systems, America, are being brought forth for everyone to see. No longer will we be able to fake the funk. No longer will we be able to hide behind our so-called good history, our whitewashed history. No longer will we be able to suppress all those that we oppressed and stripped and murdered throughout the century, throughout the last century, throughout the last several hundred years. No longer will that be able to be carried on like that, and as though it doesn't matter, and as though God is not looking, and as though those who you have oppressed and even murdered, those you have robbed and raped, stolen from, those who you have denied and marginalized. Listen, it's not as though God was not caring. God was not seeing. It is not as though you went unnoticed by God. Listen, this is a time, not only just America and its systems as a whole, but individuals. You take this individually too as well, because on whatever level you are, at whatever level you are, whatever schemes you run, whatever system you run, whatever systems you operate upon, whatever influence you have that you use and abuse wrongfully against people, understand that this is your season now to be checked. Listen, this is a period where we know in America that there is a definite need for alignment, a definite need for realignment of every sort. Everything needs to be realigned and destroyed. Well, this is that season, America. This is that season, America, where you come back into a line, or you come into alignment of how God would have systems to run. This is a period, America, of systematic realignment of systems. America, the systems of this world are being aligned, and your systems will not be untouched, America. They will begin to align themselves. Hear it. Nations will be realigned, and that includes you, America. Communities will be realigned, America. Religion will be realigned, America. Religious groups will be realigned, America. America, it's talking about you. It's talking to you. Listen, human action is being taken, America. People are no longer going to sit back and just allow you to oppress them and marginalize them and degrade them and rape them and snatch from them. America, people are being activated. They're being put into position to reposition everything that's out of position, America. Everything that's out of proper alignment. Listen, America, in order for this change to come, people are going to have to be shuffled out of their positions. People are going to have to be removed. And first of all, the way that that's going to happen across the board is during the exposure process, the uncovering process. That's going to prove validate the shuffling that must take place. When we begin to discover, when it begins to be revealed, all the underhandedness of what has been going on for the longest in this government called America, in this governed place of America, when we come to realize just how crooked things are and just how unholy things actually are in America, we will begin to request and demand a shuffling of positions. America, people will be shuffled from their positions and into their positions throughout the regions of this nation. This pandemic period is going to cause people to be moved into their positions, removed from their positions. These will not be normal moves, America. You will not control this. Those of you who had the influence, those of you who are still living under the residue of a certain amount of that influence, which won't be for long, well, you're not going to be able to dictate or control how the change comes in this time period, America. You wealthy, you rich, those of you in high positions, those of you who have been grandfathered in, those of you who have paid in, those of you who have sold your souls to the foolishness and to the injustice, to the inequality that is going on in the upper echelons of these systems, America's systems. Understand this here. Your day of reckoning has come. Listen, the moves that will happen will not be normal moves, because a normal move wouldn't pull you out of your position. The moves that are going to happen now are going to be beyond some normal move. This will not be a normal move by far. This will not happen through a normal transference of power. These are going to be abnormal moves, and they're going to be landslide moves. It's going to be widely agreed upon that it's time for the old to go. These will be moves that are going to shake up our systems, that are going to change the way that the systems are run. There are going to be life-altering changes throughout the systems that are, the systems that exist. Life-altering. America, it's time. It's time, America. People in power, you're going to lose your power here in America. Presidents of corporations, institutions, CEOs, politicians, governments. Listen, America, the losses are going to be unprecedented and in great number, because there's a realignment and a repositioning of human behavior. Man is being realigned. His thinking is being realigned. His attitudes are being realigned. Listen, his behavior, how he chooses, how he decides a thing, how he governs a thing, how he administers a thing is changing, because as his mind and attitude changes, America, his behavior will too. Listen, the injustices of this divided states of America is being judged. We're being brought into account. Listen, the corruption is deep. The corruption is great. In America, you've done good in hiding your corruption from many. Well, America, no longer will your corruption be hidden. Why? Because this is the period for corruption to come forth. Corruption is being summoned, petitioned by God to be judged, to receive its just due. Corruption, America, has come to its full circle. Corruption, it's done its job in paving its course. But understand that corruption paved this course that led it right into this season right here. This corruption, this course of corruption has infected every system within the world, America, because you've always wanted to be the top dog. You've always wanted to have the most and greatest influence. Well, America, you've had that. The only problem is now is your day of reckoning. Now you have to give an account. You're being brought into account. Your corruption is being brought into account. Your corruption is on the stand. Your corruption is now being judged. You're going to receive your just recompense, America, for the corruption that you have permeated throughout this world, and definitely throughout this nation and throughout so many households. You have done the stripping, but now, America, you yourself will be stripped. This is a period where corruption will definitely receive its just due. Listen, the corruption of the political and legal systems, you're going to receive heavy judgments, America. Those of you within those systems, or the systems themselves, the judgment against those systems that are corrupt will be severe. Those systems will receive swift judgments upon them. It is a shame how many people that we've incarcerated through corrupt means, through jealousy, hatred, outright lying, deception, setups, entrapment, payoffs, because you had the power to do, because you could lock somebody up, because you could plant a gun on them, because you could plant drugs on them, because you could lie on a police report or an incident report. Because you could do this here, you incarcerated so many people. Not only did you incarcerate so many, but you put so many on death row without having the justification or without having the proper evidence to do so. You've received search warrants unjustly through lying, through lies. You lied. You lied on the report. You lied on what you presented to the judge to get that search warrant. And you knew it. And you did it anyway because you could. And the system was designed to work for you. And if it was not designed to work for you, you in your deceptive, conniving ways, your schematic ways, you were able to exploit the system for the open areas that it had for you to do what you did and get away with it. Even just recently, we know that Michael Cohen, the former lawyer of President Trump, who was incarcerated for the underhanded things that he did in relation to and with President Trump or Donald Trump, and he ended up going to prison for it. He was there for a period of time. He did a certain amount of time, but because of the COVID breakout in the prison systems and all in America, you have not seen the worst of the prison systems. America, the prison systems will be your demise. The prison systems will work in cahoots with your demise. The prison system will work in cahoots with your demise. We see how Cohen, along with many other people, were released from prisons, both the city jails, the county jails, the state institutions, the federal institutions, the federal prisons. Those people were released from prison because of all that's going on. Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's former lawyer, he was released. He was released. He began to talk. He began to write regarding what he witnessed and what he knows regarding Donald Trump. And what Donald Trump did was he played the system. He and William Barr. Mr. Barr, you have laid your bed. Mr. Barr, your day of reckoning is upon you. Mr. Barr, you will be barred. Mr. Barr, your day is upon you. Donald Trump, his attorney general, and whoever else cahoots together and had Michael Cohen hushed up by having him rearrested, claiming he broke one of his parole agreements and was sent back to prison. But a gracious judge, a judge who saw between the bullshit, he was able to see the bullshit, and he called it out for what it was, bull. And in doing so, he made it known that, listen, just because you, Trump, and you, Barr, and whoever else of you, just because you don't like what he's doing, you're not going to use the law to benefit you and lock this man up. He threw this thing out and said, release this man immediately. And Michael Cohen was released. But it is a shame, America, what we have done to people, how we have incarcerated people that we don't like or that we want to get revenge against. It is a shame, America, and it is a shame for you, church, that you sit here and you accept this and you go with it, you support it, you undergird it, and you influence your members to do the same. America, you need to be ashamed of yourself, and you will be, because this is your point of humility, humiliation. You'll be humbled. You may not be humbled at heart, but you'll be humbled. You know, when a dog, anyone who's really raised a dog or whatever, who was real close to the family and obedient, when he knows that he's done something wrong, he tucks his tail and he like bows and walks away and puts his head down. That's you, America. That's the type of humility you're getting ready to go through. However, it does not mean that you're going to change. It does not mean that your heart is going to change. It just means that you came to play the LA Lakers this year, Miami. And I love you, Miami, because when Bron and all of those boys were down there in Miami, I was for you. You know, that's my home. So, of course, I was for you. But, you know, my heart is out there in LA now. You came to play in these finals, Miami, and you came hard, and you had pride and you had dignity, and you said Miami doesn't quit. And you're right. However, unfortunately, so far, 3 times you've had to leave off of that basketball court, humbled, almost humiliated, almost, okay? A certain level of humiliation there. That's how it's going to be, America. You've been standing strong. You've been boasting a lot. But now, America, you're going to be humbled. Your systems are going to be humbled because people have grown weary, America. They've grown weary in letting things be as they are. They're awakening to the truth now. People are awakening to the truth of what is supposed to be and what is apparently not the case. People's reality is dawning upon them, America. There's a dawn of reality. People are awakening to their own reality. They're awakening to the reality of what truly is. And they're saying, we can't take this anymore. This is not how it's supposed to be. Their eyes are being opened, America. This is a season, America, where eyes are being opened and people are beginning to see clearly. And they're putting a great demand upon you, America. Listen, America. Wake up. This is your wake up moment. You're going to be awakened in this period. You're not going to escape because people are not going to settle for your fluff and your buffoonery. People are no longer going to accept your deceptive speeches, your whitewashed, white-laced promises, and whatever else is within your speeches. They're not going to accept these things anymore. No longer are they going to take simple fixes. No longer are they going to be able to rest in what you're saying. They're going to question it all. They're going to hold you to what you say now. They're holding you accountable for what you said and what you did not do, or for what you did that you said that you wouldn't do. You said some things that you would do and you didn't do them. And then you did some things that you said you wouldn't do. Well, America, the people are demanding substance. They're demanding you to right yourself, America. Most of all, God is. Listen, you're being uncovered. And the good thing about it is, America, the old system, the old boy system is leaving us. The old boy system is dying out. The old boy system, that old regime is going away. God is raising up secret ones, hidden people, people who possess substance to lead in this season, people who possess substance to bring in this new world order of things, to erect new systems, new constructs. People with substance will begin to come forth from obscure places, America, from all of these hoods and how you say these Democratic states and even Republican states. And you're going to see people coming from all these different areas who are embedded in poverty, who are embedded within the poverty, within the victimization, or the communities that were victimized, have been victimized by the systems. You'll have people who were in the systems, who were from the communities that were victimizing other people, coming out and speaking against their own community, standing up against their own community, rising up into positions to do something about their communities as well. See, America, God is uprooting the systems of this world. All these systems, America, that have wreaked havoc in the lives of so many millions and millions and millions, and I dare say billions of people. America, God is uprooting those systems that you have used to do a modern day enslavement of the people. Yes, you lost the Civil War, America. The South lost the Civil War. However, you never gave up the enslavement. You became more vindictive. You became more deceptive. You made your systems and you evolved your systems to work and to maintain the slave master hand. Now it's just that you're forced to pay a certain amount of money, but never an amount that would give you living wages, or wages by which you can live comfortably by. And you've stripped them of their health, because I don't know if you ever gave slaves the needed health that they required. They always had to come up with their own remedies of some sort. So you've continued all of these things, all of this behavior. You've always controlled the money. You've always controlled what went out into the field and what came back from the field. You always determined who would get the loans and who wouldn't get the loans. You've always been the one, America, those of you in your wealthy places, to control the systems and make sure that the systems would work for you, but only you. Well, guess what, America? God is dismantling every system that is not for the people. America, the political system, you have totally annihilated the integrity and the character of the political arena. But God is coming after that. But I'll deal with that. I'll deal with that when I deal with the political individuals, those in politics. When I deal with the president, I'm not dealing with those at this particular point. But just know that a new day is coming within the political system, America. It will not be as always was. It will not be the okie doke as normal. It won't happen anymore like this. Listen. As the world becomes dark, America, you're becoming dark as well. And it's amazing that the world sees your darkness upon you, America, but you seem to not see it. You're afraid, but you don't want to face it. You see something, but you don't want to see the totality of it. So you create your own altered reality so that you won't have to live in the reality. However, America, this will not be sufficient enough for you. Listen, this is not a peaceful season for you, America. So if you think that you're going to sit back in the cut and just live peacefully ever after, and then when it's all over, when all of the disturbance is over, somehow you'll just go back to your trickery and all of your games. Won't happen, America. Listen, America, the streets are filled with tension. Tension has filled the hearts of people. and violence is springing forth as a result of it. Notice, America, the streets will be filled with violence. We've not seen the whole of this yet. We've not seen but the opening previews of what will manifest. America, your streets will be filled with violence. People will have their weapons as you see, America, but they just won't be weapons flaunted. They will be weapons used in record numbers. Listen, America, even though you're continuing on the same track, thinking that if you just continue forward, that somehow everybody will get with the program and then you'll go back to business as usual. No. Yes, you're continuing to demand your own ways and your old ways. Yes, you'll continue to put forth every effort to continue as you always have been, America. No, America, you are not wanting to change. No, you're not interested, America, in the change that God is bringing. You just keep persisting in your own way. You're not wanting the change that God is bringing, but it really does not matter, America. This is not your choice. This is not something for you to decide upon. Listen, America, your days of wealth and prosperity for the elites have come to their closing period in time. Listen, the normal will never be. The normal that once was will never be, America. Listen, America, things will never return to normal. Things will never be normal. They'll never go back to what you consider, what you define as being normal. Normalcy will not be what you remember it to be. No one, America, will return to the normal that used to be. Nobody is going back to that crap.
That just makes me mad.
Nobody is going back to Jim Crow, America. All this make America great again. What? All America was a great sellout, a nation that was great at deceiving and scheming and lying. America was a great gambler, a great ripoff. It was great at selling whatever crap they were selling snake oil. That's what you were, America. A country that was good at stealing and robbing and killing. Is that the great you're talking about, America? Because when you say again, the only thing that has been is all of that. So when you say bring it back to all of that again, or a place where it was before, you're talking about all of that. America, we're not going backwards in history. America, we're going forward and we're making history. America, this is where we are. No, America, it will not be business as usual. Listen, America, the days of business as usual are clearly over, America. That's a utopian world, a made up world, an illusional world that you possess within you. And anyone who buys into what you possess within you will become delusional. Well, America, people are tired of living in the delusions of all of your illusions that you sell us as though they are the heart of God. This is the way of God. Those are the ways of God. Those are not the ways of God, America. You have pushed God on us, but you yourself, America, has not submitted to God. One nation under God. Do you ever stop lying, America? Do you ever stop lying? You will do anything for your money, huh? In fact, you place one nation under God on your money. Isn't it amazing? And all the crookedness that you do with your money. The verse in the Bible in the book of Proverbs, and people have this so wrong. I've even brought this to someone who meant something to me. I brought this verse to their attention and stated to them, we're using this verse wrong when the Bible says your gift will make room for you. That is not what that verse actually says if you're going to go back into the original text of it. In the original text of it, your gift is a bribe. In fact, all you have to do, you don't even have to go to the literal text or the Strong's Concordance. All you have to do is just go into another version of that verse and read that verse. It says your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. It's speaking of your bribery, your gift of a bribe. If you have a bribe that's sufficient enough for what you're desiring, you can barter with that bribery, because people will sell their souls for what you bribe them with if it's enough. People will sell out to the truth, to what is right. Well, we've used money to bribe. The very money that we use to bribe and to pay our way into office and to pay our way into politics, to pay our way through the system, to pay those within the system who oversee the systems, to bend the system our way, to take the hands of justice, pay them a certain amount in some type of backhanded, under the table way, for judgment to be on our side, to go against, for the unjust to walk free and the just to be tried, convicted, and sometimes murdered. The very money that we use to do all of that with America, we stamped on top of it, in God we trust. What, you trust that your bribe is going to work? You trust that it's going to bring you before great men? Men of influence who in this season are losing their influence? Think about that, America. Listen. The pride of America, God said, is great. He said the pride of the United States is so great. He said the pride of this nation is greater than any other nation. He said the pride of this nation has become its reputation. We are known for our pride, America. That's nothing to pride yourself on, America. That's something to be humbled and feel, in a sense, humiliated by. But instead, you feel vindicated. You feel just in your pride, in your state of pride. How you deal with other countries when you go to their countries and you represent this prideful, divided set of states over here. It's a shame, but God says the United States is known for that pride, but both its pride and its arrogance. You can see the arrogance through who is leading our country right now. Our country chose that of its own kind. Our country chose that of our hearts. Our country decided, voted, put forth a president who represents what we've been and who we continue to be as a nation, as a prideful and arrogant nation. When you would see him over at the different conventions and all, or whatever, on the world stages at these different places overseas, and he would move other leaders out of the way as though their leadership and their presidency over their nations didn't matter. It was just the pride of America, how we've always done, bullied our way through, influenced our way through. We come with this arrogance that stinks like doo-doo, and we feel good about it. Well, America, God said the economy of the United States will be devastated. Since we've built ourselves up on in God we trust when we do not trust, he says this economy will be devastated. The financial stability of the United States will crumble. All of this, we're coming back. We're not coming back from anywhere, at least no time soon. The financial systems of the United States will take the greatest hits of all nations. The financial systems of the United States will suffer the greatest devastation than any other country in the world. There will not be another nation that will suffer, and there is not another nation as the United States. No other nation compares to the United States. No other nation has been hit and will be hit during this season as the United States is being hit. So America, Listen, even though I call you the United States, we know that you are definitely a set of divided states, which is unjust. Listen, the United States has taken first place in every category during the pandemic season so far. The United States, and you can beg to differ whether it's every category, but let's continue to live and see what happens. The United States has led in all categories since the pandemic began. No other country has refused to submit themselves as the United States has. No other nation has been as driven to continue with their economy as the United States has. Think about it, America. Other countries, when it was Italy and they were going through 1,000 deaths a day, and I was spinning my head, never realizing that the United States would come to that point. Though God was telling me the deaths in March, the deaths that are going to come, the deaths. And when I was telling people, they were just like not believing me and couldn't see it. And people were telling other people, family members were telling other family members about me when I was I was hoping that other family members, those in ministry would have heard some of the things that I heard, but instead they wanted to defend the wretchedness of where they've always stood. Whether they hear this or not, it doesn't matter whether you hear it or not. Truth is truth, and I'll speak forth truth as it comes. It doesn't matter. I'm not afraid, never been afraid, not in that sense, to open my mouth. Been careful, been wise, but not necessarily afraid. So I speak forth the truth, and I won't shut up, and I won't hush it down. But all the ministers that I was speaking to, not one said they heard anything from God. That was disturbing to me alone. But I rested in the fact that, well, you know, God, he does what he does with whoever he does. He uses whoever he uses, you know, so it is what it is. You know, there is a principle, one vessel of honor. He uses one vessel of honor, one vessel of dishonor. He makes one vessel for honor, one vessel for dishonor. Not saying that certain people are dishonored and that's why God didn't. No, I'm just making the point regarding the principle. There's a principle that's basically, it says God does with the clay whatever he chooses to do. I think that's Romans chapter 9 for those of you who might want to know where is he getting that from. Anyway, again, I say I will not be referencing verses, though I could. A whole bunch of them, but I'm not going to do that. Why? You've been drowned long enough. God is moving us beyond that book. Listen, the experience that we're having right now is defying the book itself. Don't you realize that the hand of God is in this season? Don't you realize that God is doing something in this season that we've not read in the book? And all of this, well, you could look in the Bible when they had pandemics. Those were not pandemics. The world did not have that. In fact, how do you even know, and how can you even say the world when they themselves didn't even have the technology to know how vast and wide the world was and where people may have been residing before all of the discovery that came about later on? The world of their day was the world of what they saw right there in front of them. That was not the entire world. Listen, God stated to me that this pandemic is a first. Okay? This is a first. Now, you can find where there were outbreaks. You could probably find where there were epidemics. You know, you have polio, or maybe not polio, but leprosy. You see that a lot in the Bible, and they didn't apparently have a cure for that. But this pandemic is something totally different. And if you don't believe it, then that's fine. Don't trust me. You know, trust whatever you trust. But I'm just putting it out there. Listen, by the time this thing rev up, like it's getting ready to rev up, listen, you will not have anything in the record books as a blueprint to go by. Watch as it occurs. This is new history being made. And that's the problem. People wish that it were old history. Why? Because if it were old history, we could do something to try to change history. But that's not the case here. Just take that in for a second. All right, let's keep going. The United States will lead in every category during this season. No other country has refused to submit themselves as the United States has. We are fighting again when other countries, Italy was having those deaths that they were having, and I was just amazed at the deaths. They had no problem, or maybe they did have a problem, but they did it anyway. They submitted and shut down. China submitted and shut down. Korea submitted and shut down. They said Korea did good because when they saw it happening, they shut things down. They weren't money driven. They weren't money happy. They shut down, and they saved a lot by shutting down. The United States, we refuse to shut down. Brazil refuses to shut down. But the United States, we will not shut down. Brazil is like trying to be a clone of the United States with the president, with the way he deals with the people, with the way that he deals with the pandemic. And even though he was hit by the pandemic, he did the same thing that our president did when he was hit by the pandemic, or when he was infected by it. Brazilian president was infected by the virus. He acted as though it was nothing, and he was walking around with no mask on. Then you have the president of the United States. He was infected by the virus, and then when he got out of the hospital, he went walking around without a mask on, showing forth himself, taking photo ops without a mask on. Same thing. It's like nothing stops me. The pride of us, the pride of America is on the world stage, and people around the world are following what we do, America. We've refused to submit, and no other nation has been as driven to continue with their economy as the United States has, as though we're going to gain something, America, by doing this here. You're not going to force God's hand. You're not going to change God's plans. You're not going to change the universe like that. You won't even submit to the universe. You did everything you could to pollute the universe and create energy within the universe that is now causing the universe to boomerang that energy back, which is what it does instinctively. And now you want to dictate to the universe how it responds. No, you have that seeded energy in your hand. I'll talk about this later when I talk about sowing and reaping. But what you do in the releasing of that seeding energy isn't up to you. In other words, let me rephrase that. Once you release that seeded energy, you don't get to dictate to the universe, to God, how that seed is brought back, the productivity of that seed, how the harvest returns. You don't get to do that, America, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to tell it, okay, we've had enough. Okay, stop the harvest. We want to go ahead on and go back and open our business back up and go back and get all the money we lost and go back to get everything. No, doesn't happen that way. It's not going to happen that way. The United States will become familiar for the wrong reasons. And that's what we're becoming familiar with, for the wrong reason. People will forever remember us. When in Africa, they had all of those, the Hutsis, the Hutsi and the Tutsis, or Hutus and the Tutsis, or whatever, those different tribes that were fighting, and they were just chopping each other. They were family members. They were intertwined with each other. Seemingly like something like the Pharisees and the Samaritans. The Samaritans were really somewhat, or thought to be somewhat, like distant family members. Some say the Samaritans perhaps consisted of the lost tribes of Israel that were lost in the battle with Assyria. Those tribes that were members of Israel that were lost when the Assyrians came and overtook them. And we know that Babylon came and overtook the rest of Israel. But like the Samaritans and the Pharisees, or the Samaritans and the Jews. So over in Africa, it was like the Hittites and the Tutsis, or however you say it, the Hittites, the Tutsis. People will know what I'm talking about. Rwanda and all of that stuff. Those people, they're remembered for the wrong reason. They cut women's arms off, women's legs off, men's hands off. They chopped them off, men's legs. They chopped people in their neck. They beat them with machetes. Those people are scarred for life in those countries, or those tribes, those tribal regions are scarred for life. They're being remembered. Their names are familiarized by the wrongs that they did for the wrong reasons. Well, the United States will be known for its displayed behavior throughout this pandemic season. And the United States will become a byword because of its behavior during this season. Listen, America, the world is sitting back in dismay at what we're doing, at how we're acting, at how we're refusing to adhere to the medical advice, to the medical professionals, to the scientists. The world is looking at us and shaking their heads in utter shame. I remember God said to me, he said, the world will look upon America, upon the United States in shame, and they will shake their heads in shame. That's what the world is doing right now, America. I couldn't see how that was going to happen when I heard that back in March, but now it's all evident now. The world will look in dismay at what is occurring in the United States. The world is going to be puzzled, and is now puzzled, by the response or the lack of response by the United States or by America. The world will begin to distance themselves from the United States because of this season. There will be a breakaway from other countries. They don't want to have anything to do with us. They don't want to be affiliated with us. We're like people with the bubonic plague. And we do have a plague, the virus going on, and people don't even want to mess with us, don't want us in their countries. Other countries will break away from their relationships with the United States because of our behavior, because of all that is occurring right now. And God said the United States is going to lose its dignity, and we've already lost it with many nations. The United States will lose its standing. We'll lose our footing during this season, America. The United States is going to lose its position in the world standing during this season. Listen, the United States is going to become vulnerable. God said that in this season that we will become vulnerable. We will become vulnerable to our enemies. We will become vulnerable to them. He says that the enemies of the United States will begin to rise up. They're going to rise up against us. I don't know if it's going to be more of a jipping going on, or they're going to actually come against us. Now, last night I thought about this here. And I was hoping that I would have had this part covered in what I'm speaking now, and I'm covering it now. So I'm glad that I remembered it. But now that this is October the 7th, 2020, now that our president has tested positive, and many of his cabinet members have tested positive, now that that has occurred, it is now being stated that our enemies, there is a security threat now, and that our enemies are going to probably see us as being wounded, and that they can take advantage of us. Well, that's exactly what God told me. And as we move on, it'll be right. It's right here. Let me just go ahead on and read it. It's right here. I knew God told me it, but I didn't know if it was right here or it'll be further down. Listen. This is what God said. The United States will become vulnerable to its enemies, and the enemies to the United States will begin to rise up. Enemies to the United States will rise or raise their heads during this season. The enemies to the United States will take advantage of the destruction that I had a little distraction. We had planes flying over my head. I had my phone going off. Even though I cut the ringer off, the phone still rang. I'm not sure how that happened. But anyway, He says enemies to the United States will raise their heads during this season. The enemies to the United States will take advantage of the destructive state of the United States. They, the enemies, will see this season as a chance to move upon the vulnerability of the United States. They, the enemies, will be emboldened by the moral and physical condition of the United States. Now, this is something for us to concern ourselves with. However, I'm not going to beat that right now. But America, listen, we're confronted on every side. We need to understand that these are just not normal times. These are historic times. America, we're on the wrong side of history, as they say. We are definitely making history, but for the wrong reasons. History is not going to smile upon us as it is presented. Listen, America, this is our day of reckoning. America, it is upon us. It is right here upon us. Well, we'll continue on, and in at least one more recording of this particular subtopic in relation to the prophetic utterances that I heard from God in specific regard to the United States and its systems. Until then, thank you.